Hey everybody, welcome to our devotional. We've been looking at the life of Peter, his ups and his downs. And the reason is because, I don't know about you, but I can really relate to how Peter's relationship with Jesus went. Because I'm the same way. It's not always going sky high. Sometimes we fail. And so I hope you've been following along, and if you were with us yesterday, you know we started to talk about John chapter 21. Jesus had the Last Supper with the disciples. Kind of a quick overview, okay? And at that Last Supper, he tells the disciples, listen, I'm going to die. I'm going to be crucified. I am going to be resurrected, but I am going to die. Things are going to get really tough. And then he says, and every one of you is going to abandon me. All of you disciples. Well, when you read in Matthew chapter 26, Peter hears that and he goes, Lord, these other guys, meaning the other disciples around the table, they may bail on you, but I won't. And he's so bold that he says, even if I have to die with you, I'll do it. Peter loved Jesus, and Jesus loved Peter. And Jesus looks at Peter and says, listen, man, not only are you going to deny me one time, you will deny me 3 times. And you keep reading in your Bible, Jesus is arrested, and Peter denies him 3 times. And after the 3rd time, it hits Peter like a ton of bricks what he's done. And it says he just weeps bitterly. He just breaks down because he had denied his friend Jesus. So that's a really low point in his life. We get to John chapter 21. Jesus has been resurrected, and Peter thinks that the dream of the kingdom and ministry is over, and so he tells his other buddies, listen, I'm going to go back and go fishing. And that's what he was doing before Jesus called him. And I'm going to let you listen to the devotional from yesterday, and you can pick this story up. So anyway, where we left it off yesterday is Jesus appears to the disciples again. Peter and some of the guys are out fishing, and Jesus prepares breakfast for them on the shoreline. Now watch what happens. You got your Bible, turn to John chapter 21, look at verse 15. You there? You're going to love this. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, notice he calls Peter aside. And then he says to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, Peter said, you know that I love you. And then Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, verse 16, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And so Jesus said, take care of my sheep. Let's stop right there for just a moment. Now, this is kind of a really cool point in the language that the Greeks used. They had 4 words for love. Our English language, we've got 1 word. We can say, I love hamburgers, I love sports, and I love my wife. We describe how we feel about all those things with 1 word, love. Not the Greeks. The Greeks had 4 words. And the greatest, highest love that any person could have for another person was found in the word agape. That was the word for love that meant, I'm willing to do anything, even give my life for you. So, the first 2 times that Jesus asked Peter, do you love me? He's using the word agape. Now, what's interesting is when Peter replies, well, Lord, you know that I love you, he's not using the word agape. He's knocked it down a couple of notches, and he's using the word for friendship love. Not the ultimate love, I'll die for you love, but friendship love. So, look at verse 17. The third time he said to him, so this is the third time Jesus will ask Simon, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Well, that third time, what Jesus does is he comes down from that ultimate agape love and says, Simon, are you sure that you love me as a friend? And watch what happens. Look at verse 17. Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? And I think he was hurt because now Jesus was saying, are you really sure that I'm your friend, that you love me as a friend? And so Peter said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my sheep. Now, let's talk about this for just a quick moment. You see, Jesus and Peter had not talked about Peter's denial up to this point. It was what we might call the elephant in the room. We've all had that happen in relationships. Something bad occurs between us and somebody else. And until we address it, specifically talk about it, it kind of follows us around. It's the elephant in the room. Well, what I love is Jesus now addresses it. Do you think it's by accident that Jesus asked Peter 3 times, do you love me? Well, think about it. How many times did Peter deny Jesus? 3 times. Do you think it's by accident that Jesus uses this word agape, which means I love you to the max, to the point that I'm willing to die for you, that he uses that 2 times and then finally goes down to the friendship word? Remember, Peter was the one that said, Lord, these other guys, they may bail on you, but I won't. I'll die with you. You see, what Jesus is doing is he's dealing with the elephant in the room. He's saying to Peter, look, we're going to be okay. Yes, this was a hard fall on your part. As we talked about yesterday during our devotional, Peter crashed and burned. But, with Jesus, your relationship with Jesus, my relationship with Jesus, our failure, even when we deny him, is not final. He's always calling us back to himself. He's always forgiving. So, you notice that Jesus says, do you love me more than these? What do you think he's talking about there? You know, he could be talking about fish. They were having fish for breakfast. Peter had gone back to fishing. And maybe Jesus was saying, you know, I called you when you were a fisherman, and I told you, follow me and I'll teach you to fish for people. And now you've kind of gone back to the fishing business. Do you love me? Are you willing to follow me again? Or, and this is what I think, you remember, back at that Passover meal, Peter had said, these other guys may fall away. They may deny you, but I won't. Maybe Jesus, again, was dealing with the elephant in the room, and he was saying, hey, Peter, are you still so proud, so bold, that you think when these other guys abandon, you won't? Do you love me more than these? No, you don't. And that's okay, because I can still use you. I think this is incredible how Jesus brings Peter back into relationship. And as we close, I just want to challenge you again. I just want to tell you, it's amazing how he does this in our lives, in my life, all the time, in big and small ways. When I blow it, when I, in effect, deny him, he deals with the elephant in the room, and he always calls me back. Feed my sheep. There's work for you to do in my kingdom. We can get past this. I will forgive you, and we will be good in our relationship. So, again, thank you for joining me on this little journey into the life of Peter. I hope it's encouraged you. I know it's an encouragement to me, and we'll talk again soon.